It was 25 years ago yesterday that the Raptors played their first ever game in the NBA, beating the Nets 94-79. And the market for basketball in Toronto grew from almost nothing at that time to this huge fan base that it is today. And can that Raptors fan base continue to grow for the foreseeable future? Let's get into it. Welcome to Amateur Hour Sports, where the incredible support continues to come for the channel. We just hit 800 subscribers on the channel. It's been an insane week with lots of support. I'm very thankful for everybody who did hit that subscribe button. If it is your first time here with me today and you like what you see, you want more NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and join the movement as well. But today's topic, talking about the Raptors. 25 years ago yesterday, they played their first ever game in the NBA. They weren't even playing at the Scotiabank Arena or the Air Canada Centre, whatever you want to call it. They weren't even playing those games there yet. But look how far the Raptors have come in those 25 years as a team in the NBA. They outlasted their other Canadian counterpart in the NBA, the Vancouver Grizzlies, who after only 6 years moved away from Vancouver. They now reside in Memphis, obviously, but the Raptors going stronger than ever. It seems like their brand has just grown exponentially over the last decade. So firstly, I'm going to kind of go over why the Raptors were successful and the Grizzlies were not, how the Raptors have managed to build this market to where it is today, and how far they can go in their future. Firstly, we're talking about the Vancouver Grizzlies not being successful as a Canadian NBA team. And the Raptors did find some success. And I think one of the bigger things about this was just how good the team was. The Raptors struck gold when they drafted Vince Carter, and that absolutely lifted up the market in Toronto. American people, American basketball players were suddenly interested in Canadian basketball with Toronto because of what Vince Carter brought to that team. Vancouver, the Grizzlies, they had some decent players, but there was never that flash like Vince Carter or Damon Stoudemire that really lifted up the level of interest in the Vancouver Grizzlies. And ultimately, a lot of things went south for Vancouver. They weren't marketed properly. They were mismanaged, and ultimately it led to them moving away to Memphis. Whereas Toronto did have good ownership at the time, trying to build a competitive team. The Raptors had some playoff appearances that the Vancouver Grizzlies did not. Toronto showed promise that the Vancouver Grizzlies did not, and they utilized this promise to build up this market in Toronto. We now live in a state where if you're in the GTA, you'll see a ton of people in Raptors gear. If you go through, a suburban area, you'll see basketball nets everywhere. At the time, 1995, this was not what you saw. There was just not this support for the Toronto Raptors, for basketball in Canada. But that all changed because of the Raptors' progression over their course, over their history in the NBA. With Vince Carter on the team came winning. And when Vince Carter left, it seemed like the winning kind of stopped. With Chris Bosh, there was a period where, sure, there was a bit of promise, but then Chris Bosh left in free agency, and it left us in a bit of obscurity for a few years, but then ownership changes. We start bringing in good pieces to help us build over time. Kyle Lowry comes in, and all of a sudden, we slowly build into this contender. Then when we're right on the cusp of being a legitimate contender for the NBA championship, we trade DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, and that's the trade that pushes us over the edge to an NBA championship. Not every team in the NBA has that elusive NBA championship. There are some big franchises who do not quite yet have any rings. The Raptors are one of those teams who does have an NBA championship. So you have to be doing something right with your organization when you end up coming off a season with a ring. And it's only, in fact, 1 year removed of winning that NBA championship. So the Raptors market at this present moment is bigger than it ever was. Part of the problem with Vancouver is not having a dedicated team to market basketball, and specifically basketball. When it comes to the Raptors, they had that team of dedicated people to basketball. I spoke with, about a year ago now, I spoke with the founder of the Toronto Raptors, John Bitov, in an interview. I actually posted it on this channel back when Amateur Hour Sports was a podcast. talking about why it didn't work in Vancouver and why he made it work in Toronto. The difference is Vancouver, who had the Vancouver Canucks, thought that they could market the Grizzlies like a hockey team, like the Vancouver Canucks. They recycled the same formula of marketing for them and put it into the basketball world. The Raptors, on the other hand, wanted to do exactly the opposite of what the Toronto Maple Leafs were doing. Because if you were interested in the Maple Leafs and you're interested in the marketing tactics utilized by the Toronto Maple Leafs, you would be only interested in that, and you wouldn't be interested in the Raptors. There were dedicated hockey fans who were only concerned about hockey. So you wanted to push into a different market, the market that could be interested in the basketball aspect of sports in Toronto. And that's exactly what happened. The way they marketed the team allowed for a new fan base of basketball fans to be formed in Toronto. That is what the Grizzlies did not do. They thought that recycling the old formula would have worked for them. That going along with, not drafting well, not trading well, not showing out on the court. A lot of things tie in, but this is one of the key factors in that. And while also speaking to the founder of the Raptors, John Bitov, he talked about how the Raptors market can grow to be the biggest basketball market in the world. And I was a little bit taken back by that comment, but the way he explained it, the Raptors are already having this exponential growth into a huge market superpower in the NBA. And it's only going to get bigger because basketball is getting increasingly popular in the big cities in Canada, such as Toronto. And there's only one basketball team in Toronto. We don't compete with anybody else in the entire country. When you go to the States, there's all these locations competing to bring in fans. But when it comes to Toronto, there's no team in Buffalo. There's no team in very northern parts of New York like there was before. There's just no competition. So the Raptors get all of Canada to be a part of this humongous fan base for the Toronto Raptors. And specifically, the Toronto fan base is huge. Think about 25 years ago. Was there really any sort of home court advantage for the Toronto Raptors? Not really as much. Now, all of a sudden, the Raptors are looking like they have possibly the best home court advantage in the NBA, if not top 5 easily. I would wager that they are top 1 in that regard. The fan base is huge. The arena is electric on playoff nights. I think if we had the ability to host games this postseason, I think it would have gone differently against the Boston Celtics. But, it's all done now. We can't do anything about that. But I think that there is a huge difference maker in having home court advantage in NBA playoff situations. And I think it significantly benefited the Toronto Raptors having it for 3 out of 4 series in their championship run. So with all of that, look how far the Raptors have gone so far. How far can they get now? Because it was a tiny basketball market at the time. Nobody wanted to even get drafted into Toronto. Now, all of a sudden, it's possible that the Raptors can land a max free agent next summer. Now, this is kind of sparked by some comments on my previous video talking about, possibilities of getting a max free agent next offseason and how the Raptors can't really bank on getting that max free agent because they've never done that before. What suggests that now, all of a sudden, they can land a max free agent in that free agency period next offseason? Well, the Raptors are better as a team than they ever have been. Again, 1 year removed of an NBA championship. That's still, there's still that championship taste on their mouth. People still see the Raptors a little bit like that championship team they were just over a year ago. So with that, players who want to go to a winning organization will be looking at the Toronto Raptors as that winning organization. The market grew humongously in Toronto after the NBA championship. And as it continues to trend in this direction, there's no indication that this exponential trend of growth in the marketplace is going to stop. Again, the Raptors don't compete with anybody else in their country. Every Canadian basketball fan, sports fan, is going to be a Raptors fan. And slowly, that trend is going to start spreading over into European countries as basketball gets more popular in Europe, as basketball gets more popular in Asia. The Toronto Raptors are successful in this moment, which will allow their success to carry over into Europe and into Asia, not just from a North American standpoint. That market would be even bigger if they did land a max free agent next offseason. But is it big enough at this point to grab that max free agent? I think that it is. I think that truthfully the Raptors have a great shot at landing Giannis Antetokounmpo in that max free agency. He's got a good relationship with the president, Masai Ujiri. The Raptors can cater towards the system that Giannis needs to have to be successful as a player and for the team to be successful to play around him. There's just a lot of things going right for the Raptors to cater towards one of these max free agents. But again, history does not favor them when it comes to free agency. I mean, it's only very recently that we started keeping these max players on the team. Guys like DeMar DeRozan re-signing with the Raptors. Guys like Kyle Lowry re-signing with the Toronto Raptors. You didn't used to have that. It was guys like Chris Bosh leaving in free agency. And if Vince Carter, a guy like him who did sign, eventually wanted a trade. We have never been a team who sustains this high level of play for this long. I think there is seriously a tide turning for the Toronto Raptors with the way they've been run, with the GM, with the president. All of these pieces together are working so well to create this great market for basketball. And the fact that this is continuing to grow is a promising sign for Raptors fans, as yes, one day they will land a max free agent, and it could be next offseason because of the work they've done over the last decade in the 2010s to get ourselves in this position, to win ourselves an NBA championship. It sets us up as a destination. Toronto is getting a better rep as a city to live in. There's just so many things going right that eventually it's going to lead to a max free agent. I think a great opportunity with lots of free agents to come in that free agency class next offseason. With a lot of options, even if you don't land Giannis, there's other people available to get as a max free agent. Do you want to risk your entire future on that max free agent coming to you next offseason? That's a question for the ownership. I think that you can kind of bank on it happening. Don't throw your eggs all in the same basket here with this free agent. Still set up your team to be successful even without the max free agent. If you want to bring back Fred, if you want to bring back Serge Ibaka this season, just so you're not kind of all banking on that max free agent. But I think there is a good hope to land one in that offseason. You don't want to turn out like the Knicks, trade away Porzingis and go all out trying to get 2 max free agents. Instead, you get none. You're stuck with Julius Randle. You don't want that to happen. And I don't think the Raptors are dumb enough to let that happen like the New York Knicks organization. I think you're going to be smart about this, but the way the market is growing in Toronto, the way I see it continuing to grow for the foreseeable future, max free agents are going to start to look at Toronto as a destination for themselves to be, happy as a basketball player, happy from a personal standpoint as well, and that team success will come with that player on the team. The market is growing in Toronto for basketball, and there is just simply no indication that this is going to slow down. The Raptors are here to stay. So that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about the market power of the Toronto Raptors. Do they have the ability to land a free agent in the next offseason, a max free agent like Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek Freak, or others? Do they have the market capabilities to do that? Should they bank on that happening? Throw all their eggs in the same basket there? Let me know your opinion in the comments down below. But that wraps up this video. Thank you again for watching. If you are still here, please like the video if you like, and subscribe to Amateur Sports for more content just like this. We just hit 800 subscribers, and we're not stopping there. We are continuing to move on and press forward, hopefully one day to get to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody for this incredible support you have given over the last little while. It is greatly appreciated, and it is greatly noticed. At the end of the day, I believe what I say, and if you disagree, that is okay. We'll see you again next time for another video.